Jigger me no press people button. Nobody chat come face me with something. Like how me have 22 in a me something. Then I feel so forget the next 1,000 fool. Press jigger me no press people button. Nobody chat come face me with something. Like how me have 22 in a me something. Then I feel so forget the next 1,000 fool. Anytime you ready put now we see start war. See who the fist spread it out but bandit.
My style is the bomb, the dang, diggy diggy. A room boy no play with the bomb, the dang, diggy diggy. My style is the bomb, the dang, diggy diggy. A room boy no play with the bomb, the dang, diggy diggy.
Go now we sit down and I watch your man a live. Watch your man a war now who a roll big. Sit down and a plan fi come put man pa fridge. Remember when you dig hole that hole you fi dig. Certain little boy we have stop deal with. Clips and them a friend and them bad mind
my style is the bomb, the dang, diggy diggy. A room boy no play with the bomb, the dang, diggy diggy. My style is the bomb, the dang, diggy diggy. A room boy no play with the bomb, the dang, diggy diggy.
Nací un día de junio del año 77, planeta Mercurio y el año de la serpiente. Signo patente tatuado y en mi frente que en el vientre de mi madre marcaba el paso siguiente. Nacer llorar sin anestesia en la camilla. Mi padre solo dijo eso Ana María. Sí sería el primer llanto que me probaría, que mandó las heridas y dándome la batería. Solía ser entonces como un libro abierto, pero leí la letra pequeña del texto. Como un arquitecto construyendo cada efecto. Correcto, incorrecto, se aprende todo al respecto. Saber que algunas personas quieren el daño. Subir peldaño toma tiempo, toma años. Con mi peluche mirando lo cotidiano, dibujos transformaban el invierno en gran verano. Papá me regaló bajo mi insistencia un juego que trataba de compartir la solvencia, pero en el patio hicieron la competencia. Fue cuando sentí mi primera impotencia. 1970 y 1970 y 1970 1977. No me diga no, que no lo presiento. Todo lo que cambia lo hará diferente en el año que nació la serpiente. 1977. No me diga no, que no lo presiento. Todo lo que cambia lo hará diferente en el año que nació la serpiente. Mi adolescencia fue una etapa bizarra. El cuerpo es batería y la cabeza guitarra. La orquesta narra una tonada quebrada para...
Hey, my name's Robbie. I'm a 2009 graduate of Virginia Tech, and in March of my final semester, I started a study abroad company from my dorm room in Beijing, China, with the goal of getting more Americans, and really in particular more Hokies, to study abroad in China. And since we started, we've hosted over 100 Virginia Tech students and faculty in China, including the dean of the College of Natural Resources and Environment, which geography is a part of. So I've been living in China for the past 4 years, bringing more and more Virginia Tech students out there. This year we've had 60 already. And for the first time, next spring, we have a Virginia Tech professor spending the entire semester in China. He's from the history department. I gotta remember this. He's from the history department. His name's Dr. Berkeley Coates. So it's essentially a Virginia Tech sponsored study abroad program in China. You can earn up to 18 credits while abroad. Pamplin also has a summer study abroad through my organization next summer. It's a 9-credit program. So anyone interested in studying abroad, I strongly encourage that you consider China as your option. We're going to have a great Virginia Tech program there next semester. There's a website in the bottom right corner of the slide. And if anyone's interested, we also have an information session next Thursday from 5 to 7 in Squires. All right, so info session, study abroad China, next Thursday, 5 to 7, Squires in the Multicultural Center. There's going to be free pizza. All right, thank you.
Okay. Hey, so how's everybody doing today? All right, so I'm here to talk about the event that the Muslim Student Association is putting on, and it's called Colors of Islam. And Omar, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. This is an event where, inshallah, we will present different nations of Islam. Many people would be surprised to see that Muslims come from all different sectors of the world. So hopefully, if you want to come, there will be a 2 can or $5 entrance fee. And this is a small entrance fee to pay for quite an exciting event. A lot of different foods, a lot of different people you will hopefully meet. So please come meet us. Information of where it will be is right here. And hopefully we will have a smashing time.
And all proceeds will be going to the Blacksburg Interfaith Food Pantry, so that's a great cause, you know. And hope you all can come out because you guys are getting extra credit. Woo! Bye.
Thank you. Have a great class. Boy is amazing.
Thanks, man. Good? We good to go? Am I mic'd up? Yes? Okay, how's everybody doing today? We ready to go? Is it time? Is it time once again to let some learning begin? Yeah, come on! Wow, what happened? People were so fired up a few weeks ago, and now this is over already. Yes, Saul, that's right. There's no free Red Bull, so you're already out. Okay, our experiment this semester is coming to kind of a full head, and the experiment being what happens when we have a live gigantic class, but also stream it live simultaneously, and more important, record it so that you can watch it anytime you want. And I think we're seeing the effects of it, which is that fewer and fewer people are coming to class, and that's cool. It actually makes it physically cooler in here. But I was also doing this experiment to see if we could actually move from this ginormo classroom back to our regular small classroom of McBride 100 that seats about 550 people. It seems like there's about 550 people here right now. Are you the 550 people that are so awesomely dedicated you're going to come to class every week no matter what? So how would you feel about moving back to McBride 100? No? but it would seat all of us just fine. It's just not as cool as being in Bertus Auditorium. So even if only 30 of you show up next week, you still want me to do it in Bertus Auditorium. To do what? You need the elbow room? Okay, that's cool. Well, I'm thinking that maybe we'll try it. I'll keep teaching in here. That's cool. I got no problem. We got the room booked. It's all taken care of. I just thought that McBride 100's a little cozier so we could actually see each other. I could see your faces and you could ask questions easier. But maybe we'll try it. Maybe we'll try it as an experiment. Not next week, but maybe a couple weeks from now we'll see what happens. Yes? Oh, that's true. We do have World Leaders exam next week. So yeah, we'll definitely have to be here next week. Good call on that. Okay? I was just suggesting it as an experiment to go back to a different classroom, but how many people, seriously, be honest, you can vote by show of hands, how many of you would have no problem going back to McBride 100? Yeah, I'll go back to McBride 100, no problem. Okay, show of hands, how many, show of hands, how many people are like, no, I definitely want it in Bertus Auditorium the whole semester. All right. It's so big in here. It scares me. I'm not comfortable in front of so many people. All right, we'll keep doing it, but maybe we'll have a radical class where we just attempt it over in McBride, and we'll do the ticket system to make sure that people have seats and stuff like that. All right, that's enough of that spiel on the technical stuff. How's everybody doing this week? Doing good? Doing good? Okay, ready to have a class? Ready to talk about some stuff? Ready to learn some geography online and live here in the classroom? Any questions about anything before we get going today? Questions, comments, concerns? Yes. I tried streaming class last time and it cut off straight at 9 points. Oh, really? Cut off straight at 9? Okay. Well, email me about that. It might be a technical issue, or maybe Katie just cut the video right at 9, but we'll try to keep it going from here on out. Any other questions? Yeah? How do I recommend studying for the World Leaders exam? Are we really doing that next week? Is it next week? Yeah. Crap. I guess I better get to that information today then, huh? The way to do it is that make sure that I get through today's lecture. That's issue 1. And then issue 2 is that there is an online quiz on www.platavenger.com. If you go to mouse over the Leaders tab, it'll have a drop menu that shows all the regions, and then the very last one says Take Quiz. So if you click on that, there's a quiz that pops up, and you can go to your heart's content through all the world leaders and click on, it'll show a world leader and say, who is this person? And give you some choices. And you click on it. If you choose the wrong answer, it tells you the right one. If you chose the right answer, it says, you're great. Here's another question. So you can do that in a continuous loop, if you like. And other than that, I'll do some online office hours to field questions on Sunday night and maybe another night online if you like. And I think that should do it. That should get you in the ballpark. Okay? Any other questions? Yes?
I noticed that you sent out an email recently about these forum posters.
Yes?
There were articles that people posted about CNN or New York Times, these kind of sources. Will these people be able to make up articles
The question is, I sent out an email a couple days ago talking about the forums exercise, which most of you in the room are doing. And I said something to the effect of, it doesn't count. If you are putting up on the forum post, a man assaults dog in Brooklyn, all right? That has nothing to do with international affairs, nothing to do with international relations, and so you don't get credit for that. That actually was explained as part of the assignment. So if you did that anyway, it means you probably didn't read the instructions correctly. And I also changed it and said, you can now post just one brand new news article every week, and then you can have 4 replies. You won't get counted down for ones you've already done for that. Yeah? No. As long as the story is about, something going on in China or Indonesia, that's fine. It's not that we're really dogging American news sources. As long as the story's good. by default, if you're looking at international news sources, almost by default, they're talking either about an international news story or given a more international perspective, which is the whole point of the exercise. Now, you're not going to get graded down for a CNN news story that's talking about Indonesian relations with ASEAN. That's a great story. Yeah. Yeah, her question is, can we just do 5 replies instead of doing any news stories? Well, I do want you to get out and find at least one news story a week. So that's why we held it. Do at least one brand new news story that you post, but we're trying to encourage more interaction and more replies. We might even soften that by the end of the semester, but for now, at least one news story and as many other replies as you want. Okay? Most people are doing great, by the way. You're doing fantastic. Yeah. Yes. No, you do have to space out your form commenting on at least 2 different days of the week, and that's in the instructions as well. Some people, of course, if I don't tell you to space it out, then you'll wait till 5 seconds before it's due, and then you'll just make 10 replies real quick. And again, that defeats the point of actually going out and reading news and figuring out stuff. I do have to tell you that someone in this room is tried to be very clever. And you know what? They're probably not in this room. Somebody decided that even making comments on news stories was too hard, so they plagiarized making comments on news stories. This is college. Do read the news story and actually make a comment out of your own brain. And the reason it got busted is it wasn't even us. I wasn't paying that close of attention. I can't lie. Some news source contacted me and said, somebody's cutting and pasting all of this stuff from our website onto yours. And I'm like, what? That sounds, oh my God. Come on. So someone in this room, or not, was going into news stories posted online, going to user comments and cutting and pasting user comments into our user comments. Come on! You can do it! It's college! All you got to do is read a little bit and use your own brain to respond. Woo! I don't know what else we can do. Yes?
What's your opinion on Mitt Romney's comment about the 47%?
No opinion on U.S. politics besides Barack Obama should be here with us on stage, all right? That's my only opinion on politics. Yes? What I do to the kid? The kid plagiarizer? I don't know. I just found out about it a few hours ago. So I've called in an assault team. I don't know if they've stormed his dorm room yet and impounded his hard drive. I don't know what to do with that. By the way, somebody was equally as clever last semester. I do have to tell this quick story, even though we have to get through lecture today. Last semester on the weekly quizzes, or did I tell you this already? On the weekly quizzes last semester, somebody created a Facebook page. Facebook World Regions Weekly Quiz page, wherein they said, hey, everybody should share all of the answers to the weekly quizzes in Boyer's class so we don't have to read anything. We can just share each other's questions that you got on the quiz. And so when I found out about it from another student who said, this is really unfair because I'm doing my work. And I said, you're right. Let's have some fun with the cheaters. So instead of busting them, I put the word out on the street covertly that students like you, good students, should go to this Facebook webpage and put in all the wrong answers to questions, which hundreds of people proceeded to do. And then people suddenly got wise to what was happening. And originally the Facebook page for Cheat Boyer's weekly quizzes had 1,068 followers. Once my people started flooding it, an hour later it had 500 followers. Then 10 minutes after that it had 200 followers. 5 minutes after that it had 10 followers. And then I got an email from a student who said, Boyer, I'm the one that started that page. I'm sorry I didn't do it. All right? And he shut the page down. I'm like, sweet, social networking for good, all right? So whatever way you think to cheat, somebody's already tried to do it or is currently trying to do it. So maybe just do the work. It's not that hard to do. Okay? Any other questions about anything? This is the most questions we've had. We have the smallest group of people here all semester, and we're getting the most questions and interaction. You're right, maybe we should keep it here in Burris Auditorium and see if we can get more free stuff. I can say, oh no, there's like 3,000 people enrolled in this class. We need 3,000 plane tickets to Hawaii. And see if we can get somebody to give us that. Then you can share them with family and friends, and it'll be hilarious. All right? Okay, anything else? Anything else once? Anything else twice? Oh, yes, sir. What about China and Japan? Those are countries, yes. I'm sorry, somebody said what? If they... China and Japan, what's going on? China and Japan. Anybody heard about China and Japan? How many people want to hear about China and Japan? China and Japan, China and Japan. Damn it. Katie, you got internet on the far screen? Can you pull up the internet on the far screen? Pull up anything on China, Japan. Let's do Google search on China, Japan. See what we got going on China, Japan. I like the sound of that, China, Japan, all right? Which one? Both, all right? Okay, what's going on in China, Japan is actually pretty critically important. Let's go ahead and make it a weekly question and one for the midterm, if not multiple. Pull me up any news source on China threatens Japan over islands. Territorial dispute sparks protest in China, Japan. All right? Look, it's even right there. They heard me talking. Territorial dispute sparks protest in China, Japan. Go ahead and click on that one, all right? What's going on here, very quickly, is a spat over some rocks. Have I not mentioned this in class? Did I talk about this in class last week? I did, didn't I? Well, let's just throw out some more easy exam questions then. Pull me up a map. Pull me up a damn map. I don't want a bunch of damn advertisements of Senkaku. Senkaku. Say it along with me, friends. Senkaku. But if you're from China, it's actually pronounced Diaoyu. Diaoyu. Yeah. Dude, let's do this. We got... Yeah, that's fine. Just pull me up a Senkaku, but I want to hear this first, all right? Is anybody from Japan in the room? Anybody from Japan? Japan? Anyone from Japan? He's pretty white for Japanese, all right? Pretty damn white. Let me get this microphone. Nobody from Japan in the room? I'm not going to embarrass you terribly, seriously. It's not that bad. Japan? I know we got some Japanese too. Seriously? Anybody see Jordy Dreams of Sushi earlier today? I know there's some Japanese people in the house there. Okay? All right, well, since no one from Japan will admit to it, you are Chinese, yes? Stand up. If I was Japanese, I would pretend I'm from... I will be Japanese for the moment. Hi! All right? Godzilla! Okay, that's as far as I go with Japanese. I'm from Japan, and I say this group of rocks, do we have it up there? This small group of rocks right there in the circle around it that doesn't even look like a rock, that's the Senkaku Islands. Because I'm from Japan, we call them Senkaku. But you, sir, are from China, and you say they're called? 钓鱼岛. Turn around. Say it with conviction.
Yeah. 钓鱼岛.
钓鱼岛. Yeah, give it a... Yeah, say it again really loud, like scream it.
钓鱼岛.
Yeah! That's all we're talking about. 钓鱼岛. No idea what the hell I'm saying, all right? Sorry to all our online friends who were watching a blank screen while we did that. He said, 钓鱼岛, all right? Now this is a group of rocks, all right? It's a group of rocks. Again, that's a crappy map. We can't even... Show me image. Pull up an image. We see where they're at. We see that they're... Damn it! There they are! Oh! There they are! That's fine. Just keep that shit up. Click on any of them, all right? All right? There they are! China and Japan might go to war for that. That's it. That's it. Why is the question. You know the where, you know what. Why on earth with the second largest economy on planet Earth almost be getting ready to go to war with the third largest economy on planet Earth for that. Anybody got any answers? Yeah. Let's pretend there's not oil there, because even if there are, that's it. All right? So maybe there's oil there. Maybe there's natural gas. There's certainly some fish. Oh, fish! There's fish there, so we should bomb China. All right? Nobody's going to do that for fish. All right? So it isn't about the resources. Nobody gives a crap really what's underneath these islands or on them. Yes? It's something about control, yes?
Encroachment on national sovereignty.
Encroachment on national sovereignty perhaps as well, yes? What's that? They could put bombs there? Is that what you're... Yeah, that's true, yes? Maybe China just wants to flex a little. Oh, is that it, sir? Oh, tell you. All right. Not even paying attention to me anymore. All right. That's cool. Okay. Yeah, it may have a, yes, all the way in the back there. Maybe some waterways. If we can go back to the map, just go back to the map again. You'll see that it's not really in the middle of any major transit routes. It's not blocking any shipping, and I've already now told you it's not got anything to do with resources. Let me give you the answer real quick. This is national pride. Booyah! National pride. China, and there is a little bit of what you guys were saying to it, yes. It's partly because of its location. It's awfully close to China's shore. Japan does control it. Japan kind of does own it. And Japan took it physically about 100 years ago, a little more, okay? About 1895. In 1895, Japan, when it was expanding its imperial empire, we haven't talked about Japan yet, but let me give you a quick tour. Japan really wasn't that much of anything, was not a world power, was not a regional power, was not really anything. Up until about 1880, 1890, 1895 is when Japan, a small group of islands, started to rise up and take over all of that side of planet Earth. All right? And everybody in this neighborhood remembers that. You don't, because you weren't taught it. And even if you were taught it, you couldn't give a shit less about it because it's over there. Didn't affect you in the least. It affects them there still now. So Japan grabbed these islands over 100 years ago, and again, they're just rocks. Japan actually grabbed Taiwan at the same time. This is 1895, the Sino-Japanese War. Okay? Japan declared war on China and took Taiwan. All those islands, took Okinawa, and also grabbed the Korean Peninsula. Which, by the way, side note, the Koreans are pissed off at the Japanese about a different island right now. That one's low-level conflict. This one's turned into a high-level conflict. So over 100 years ago, Japan grabs a group of rocks that nobody gives a crap about, and nobody subsequently has given a crap about them for 100 years. But now, China's rich now. China's powerful now. And China don't want Japan owning a little piece of something that's strategically located just off their coast. And China's rich, and China's proud, and China's flexing its muscle. That's what's going on here. Japan, for its part, is doing the same. Saying, hey, we used to be a big boy power, and we're still the third biggest economy on planet Earth, and we don't want to get pushed around by China. We're holding on to this damn rock. And China wants the damn rock back. The problem with Chinese claim is that they never really kind of owned it. Sorry, I'm going to piss off my Chinese friends now. But there's no solid evidence that anybody ever claimed this damn rock 200 years ago. China is simply saying, hey, by natural default, look where it's at. It's kind of ours. Come on. Come on. That's ours. And guess what? We're China. We're powerful. And if we wanted to take the damn rock, we'll take it. Question is, will it start a war? Yes. Japan, oh, this feels like a great test question. You're right, we should stay in Burris. I love this class. Great question. He said, does Japan even have a military to fight China? Does anybody know the answer?
Yes and no.
Yes and no is the answer. The quick answer is no. Write this down. Japan does not have a military. They do not have a... Let me say that again, because that makes no sense. Japan has no military. What do they have? They have a Japanese self-defense force. You have seen the Japanese self-defense force in action. I can promise you. Japan has not been in a war since World War II, but you have seen the Japanese self-defense force in action. Can anybody tell me where they have physically seen Japan's self-defense force defending Japan? Anyone? 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 Write it down. Every Godzilla movie. Every Godzilla movie, it's the Japanese self-defense force that's trying to defend Japan from Godzilla. That's the only action they've seen. Japan's self-defense force has tanks, weapons, rifles, howitzers, guns, missiles, jets, naval ships, battleships. They got everything. But it is not a military. It is a self-defense force, emphasis on the D. Defense. So what's the difference between a self-defense force and a military?
Military can invade.
Yes. Say it in a different way.
As in, a nation with a military can declare war.
Can declare war, yes. Is that where you were going to go? A military has the capability to be offensive. A military can be offensive, meaning they can strike first. Is the U.S. military offensive? We're the best at being offensive, all right? We can do the D when we have to, but we're better at the O, all right? Okay, yeah.
Would the U.S. step in if China decided?
Well, hold on. Before you get to the will the U.S. step in, let's finish about, someone said, will Japan fight back or start a war? So I've said the answer to that is yes and no. Here's why it's yes and no. No, they can't really start a war. They don't have a military. They only have a self-defense force. Here's where it gets tricky. Stay with me. Stay with me. Exam test question coming. If China invades that rock, can Japan defend itself? There's no citizens on the rock, but Japan says this territory is ours. If it is invaded, they could 100% use their self-defense force to counter the attack on what they say is Japanese soil. In fact, that's the mission of the Japanese self-defense force, is to protect Japanese soil. And they say those rocks are their soil. Period. So that's why we're watching the situation very closely, because all of the elements are in place for an active war. China is extremely powerful, flexing its muscles and saying, we could take this rock, and we might. And there's a tremendous amount of national pride in China right now. A lot of Chinese people are beating the drum for war, quite frankly, and pissed off as hell about a handful of rocks they can't even locate on a map. Pissed off as hell about a group of rocks they cannot locate on a map. Okay? It's pride. It's got nothing to do with a rock. Pride. In fact, that's the news stories you've been seeing, is Chinese protesters attacking the Japanese embassy, burning down Japanese businesses in China, and even rattled up the U.S. ambassador when he was in his car trying to go somewhere. I'm not sure what that was about. I will add this in as a test question too, at the risk of offending my Chinese friends. The Chinese government is allowing them to happen. And that's what's important to watch. If China's government doesn't want a protest to happen, do they have the power to shut them down? In a second. If you think there was a pro-Tibet protest going on across China right now, do you think those would be happening? Shut down. That ain't going to happen. But this is an anti-Japan protest. Oh, well, whoops. Yeah, they burned down the Japanese embassy. Oh, we just didn't get police there in time to save it. Sorry. Oh, what? There's 100,000 Chinese citizens storming through the streets pissed off? Oh, well, we'll ask them nicely to go home. I mean, China's government is really allowing their citizens to blow off steam about this as a show, I won't say a show of force, but as a show that they're serious about this. They want these islands back, and they're ready to confront Japan about them. Do you have a... Why is it coming to a head right now is a question coming in from online, and that is anybody's guess. There have been provocations over this group of rocks off and on for years, but no one really knows why it suddenly is becoming a hot issue right this second. But I also do want you to know this going on in the news, okay? So for the last few days, so like a week, there have been Chinese protesters in China protesting against this. They are vehement anti-Japanese protests. Attacks on the Japanese embassy, attacks on Japanese business, okay? As kind of a counter move, Japan has done two things, and I want you to know both. Japan, the Japanese government, bought that group of rocks from the private landholders who held them, okay? So it was actually Japanese citizens that owned these rocks. The Japanese government went out of their way to purchase the rocks from this group of people so that they are now fully owned and controlled by the government of Japan. And that pissed off China too. Okay? So that's thing one that happened. Thing two that happened, a lot of Japanese businesses have closed their business doors in China. Has anybody seen that in the news? So like 200 Japanese-owned 7-Elevens, they just boarded up shop a couple days ago and they said, to hell with it, we're closing. They also closed down a bunch of Toyota plants. And I'm sure other Japanese car manufacturing plants and Japanese manufacturers, period, are shutting down operations in China right now. And that's pissing off Chinese people. So you can look at it from one of two ways. The Japanese could be doing that just to piss off China, or they could be doing that for safety concerns, saying, hey, look, we can't have our Toyota factory burned to the ground and people attacked. We're just shutting down. It doesn't matter why they did it, but it's pissing off Chinese people even more because who works at Toyota factories in China? Chinese people do. Who works at the 200 7-Elevens in China? Chinese people do. So now we're dabbling in economic attacks already, and this is getting not good. There's a tremendous amount of Japanese investment in China, and China and Japan are huge trading partners. Billions and billions of dollars worth of stuff go between these two countries every year. It is in no one's vested interest to see these two countries go to war or even start a trade war. It's going to be terrible for the citizens of both countries over a group of rocks. Yes? If they did go to war, who would win? Let's take a class vote. USA wins. I don't know. I mean, like I said, we're good with the big O, all right? But I don't know if we want to tread into the waters of this small group of rocks. The United States would be extremely hesitant to get involved in this, even though Japan is a huge ally of ours. The U.S. does not want to get into a war with China. China doesn't want to get into a war with the United States. Let's just be all honest with each other here. The U.S. is kind of busy, and China's kind of rich, and they'd like to stay that way. So as bad as a trade war or a real war would be between China and Japan, it would be more horrific between the U.S. and China. You could say goodbye to 90% of the goods on Walmart shelves if we get into a trade war with China. Yeah. Someone says, why don't they just forget about the rocks? Okay, why don't they just forget about the rocks? Hey, I've got a good question for you. Why doesn't everybody in the South just forget about the Civil War? By the way, I'm from the South. I'm making a point. I'm making a point. Do people still talk about the Civil War in the United States? Do people get passionate about the Civil War in the United States? People get fired up about the Civil War in the United States? It was 150 years ago, and there were no islands involved. And people still get fired up and passionate about it. That's something that doesn't go away. So let me finish. I meant for this to be a short answer of why this fight's going on right now, and I said it's about personal pride. Let me finish what I was going to be a 5-minute conversation that's now a half hour. And that is that one of the things you don't know as a non-Asian, non-Chinese, non-Japanese person is that history is behind a lot of this. So, as I've now told you, Japan grabbed these islands over 100 years ago. Whatever, nobody cared, okay? But then Japan went on to build a gigantic empire and took over China and parts of Southeast Asia and Korea and parts of Indonesia through force, through pretty bloody force, that was only ended when the United States came in and kicked their asses in World War II. Everybody knows that history, right? Right? Everybody knows that? U.S. came in, woo, beat up China, China went away. I'm sorry, beat up Japan, Japan went away. Dig this. Just like people in the South still remember the Civil War, everybody in Asia still remembers Japan taking over. Everybody. Let me repeat that. All Asian peeps still remember Japanese imperial aggression from pre-World War II. Let me assure you they do. Let me reinforce, Korean people may be even more pissed off at Japan than Chinese people are over the events before World War II. That passion is still there. People are still fired up about it. And I do have to give you a little insight that I got from some Chinese students here, perhaps in this room, definitely on this campus when I've been talking to people from China and Japan for the last week, trying to figure this stuff out myself. And I want to share my knowledge, my newfound knowledge with you. People in Japan, and I knew this already, but it was reinforced. Write this down. People in Japan, people your age in Japan, don't have much of a clue about their own country's history prior to World War II. Japanese textbooks do not teach about the period from 1895 to World War II. They just kind of gloss over that. So they're like, wow, 2,000 years ago we were the Japanese people, and then we formed our imperial state, and then we had shoguns and sword fights and ninjas. Godzilla came a couple times, and we built a mighty empire, and by 1900 we were really strong, and then we invented Pokemon in 1980. They kind of just skip. There's an arc that's lost. So Japanese kids are not taught about that imperial era. And here's what I just found out this week. Chinese students, your age, they know all about World War II. And they know all about the imperial era of Japan. And in fact, it was told to me by 3 different students, oh, in China, we learned that the Japanese are pretty much evil bastards who destroyed our country and pissed down our back and stole from us. That's what they learned. Are you starting to see the conflict forming up a little bit better now? So, history's got a lot to do with it. In fact, I'd say it's mostly history and national pride right now. That one would think, oh my gosh, certainly they're not going to go to war over this, but crazier things have happened. Yeah. What about NATO Article 5? Do you remember the Article 5? Really? What does NATO Article 5 say? If you attack any single NATO member, you just picked a fight with all of us. Yes, let's invoke NATO Article 5. If China attacks Japan, wait a minute, wait. There's a problem. What's the problem? Japan is not a NATO member. Ah, good try though, sir. Yes. What about U.S. troops in Japan? Well, actually, you're seeing, this is a zoom in of Okinawa. You see Okinawa on the map right there, and there probably are 30,000 U.S. troops in Okinawa. They've been there since World War II. And her question is, what will happen to all the American troops in Okinawa and other parts of Japan? Nothing. Why would you think something would happen to them? Yes, I won't say it's a conflict of interest that we have with China just because we have troops there. We've had troops there since 1945. And when we put troops there after World War II, it was largely to keep check of the Japanese, not to keep check of China. And China knows that. So I don't even think the Chinese government thinks it's a conflict of interest that there are U.S. troops there. I don't believe that. In fact, feels like a test question. Does anybody know who's in China right now, today, meeting with the future president of China? Anybody know? Anybody follow their news? Not Hillary Clinton. Good guess, though. Someone close to Hillary Clinton. Not Bill Clinton. I don't mean that close. Ew. Come on. Let's keep it clean, and Bill never does, all right? Close in position to Secretary of State is Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta, is in China today. Feels like a visual exam question for next week even. Leon Panetta is in China today. And what is he talking with the future Chinese president about? About continued cooperation between U.S. and Chinese military, period. So we're working really hard, as are the Chinese, into further engaging with the U.S. militarily in a good way, not a war way. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Japan's been in an economic slump for decades. So this, I guess the bottom line that I keep trying to stress here is, if this continues to go, and China allows their citizens to get more and more fired up and have more protests, and Japan continues to have provocations to piss off China, it's going to end up probably not as an open war, but as some sort of economic war in which nobody's going to win. This is going to be a lose-lose for everybody until these guys figure it out. They don't want to keep losing billions of dollars for national pride. Okay? Does that make sense? That was supposed to be a 5-minute answer, and we're going to succeed in not getting to a single slide today, aren't we? I knew it. I knew you guys could do it. I love you for that. All right? What time is it? 7:40? Are you serious? It cannot be 40 minutes into this class. I'm still on slide 1. You've got to be kidding me. Damn it, I want to give you all hugs and extra credit, all right? No. You don't want extra credit. It's just a pain in the ass. If I start handing out Scantrons, you'll all be texting your friends, and then 3,000 people will suddenly be here in 10 minutes. And it just gets messy, all right? What's that? Lock the doors. And start a fire, too. Why not? Let's break multiple laws at the same time. Did anybody bring fireworks, all right? Let's shoot off some fireworks here. People are raising their hand. Please tell me you're joking, all right? Okay, now that I've succeeded in not getting anywhere in class today, let's attempt it. And we do need to jump to world leaders, don't we? We got to get to world leaders because we're going to have them next week. Should we do a straight jump to world leaders? Straight jump to world leaders? All right, how about I just go through the slides like ultra fast? We talked about all this stuff last week. Yes. Good. And you watched videos online. Hopefully you watched this. Let me hear by a round of applause, and don't lie. Everybody watched this already? You already watched? Oh, that's weak. Everybody who didn't watch it, who didn't clap, you need to watch that because it explains all the modern-day sovereignty issues and how you have countries and pseudo-countries like some of these entities that will definitely be test questions, so please go back and watch that if you have not watched it. We also referenced Syria, but I'll jump through that. Russia will veto any moves against Syria. And I was suggesting at the end of last class that perhaps we're returning to the good old days, where the only people that truly have sovereignty, the only entities that have sovereignty, are those countries that can prove it via force, or, what was the other way? If you have a very strong ally. So the United States, do you think it has sovereignty? Does China have sovereignty? Does Mexico have sovereignty? I'd say so. Because no one's going to let, the U.S. isn't going to let Mexico get messed with. Okay? Does France have sovereignty? They got nuclear weapons. Does India have sovereignty? Therefore, does Sri Lanka have sovereignty? I think India probably would take care of them. So we can kind of go around the world. You either have to be a very strong power that can prove your sovereignty, or be very good friends with somebody who will prove it for you. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. And I'm suggesting also maybe we never really left those times. Maybe that's always been the case, and we just let the structure of the United Nations lull us into a false sense of sovereignty satisfaction over the last 60 years. Because it does appear in today's world that we're getting back to the good old days of, you know what, the U.S., you can have all the sovereignty you want, but if you piss off the U.S., you're going to get invaded. And you can have all the sovereignty you want. All the countries in the world can recognize you, but if you piss off Russia, you're going to get invaded. So maybe we never really left that kind of structure of how the world really works. We just all played nice for a while, all right? And we also talked about sovereignty stoppers. And you know what? I will play this game real quick before we jump to world leaders. Let's test the knowledge of what you, of the online videos you watched. Some of this is reinforcing the flash quizzes that you've already done. Anybody love the flash quizzes? Let me hear for flash quizzes. You still like those flash quizzes? You want more flash quizzes? All right, all right, all right. You want another one this week? Another one this week? All right, all right, all right. But testing your flash quiz knowledge and stuff we talked about in class and stuff you saw online now, let's play a quick round of who would veto this. If we're going through the United Nations in an attempt to get you to better understand why things happen or don't happen in the world via the United Nations, I'm going to propose a bunch of resolutions. And I want you to scream out veto, right, when you know it would be vetoed, and then tell me who would veto it. Who has veto power in the UN, by the way? The Permanent Five. The P5 has veto power. So tell me which country would veto the following things. If I put forward a resolution recognizing the sovereign status of Kosovo. Russia would veto that. How about recognizing the sovereign status of Tibet? Veto. Nice. How about a resolution recognizing the sovereign status of South Ossetia? I said who would veto it? Who would veto it? That could be China, could be United States is probably your best answer, okay? How about a resolution recognizing the sovereign status of Taiwan? A resolution recognizing the sovereign state of Palestine. U.S. would definitely veto that. Now let's get to some different types of resolution. How about a resolution ceding the Falkland Islands to Argentina? So you have to know what the Falklands are. Falklands are British-held territory, another small group of rocks just off the coast of Argentina that those two countries actually have already fought a war or two over. They're actually about as big as the rocks I showed you, the Senkakus. So don't think it can't happen. But what's the answer? Who would definitely veto that going to Argentina? The United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom is the current controller of those rocks. How about a resolution condemning any action ever, any action by Israel? The United States would veto any resolution that ever condemned Israel about anything. Anything ever. What's that? Pretty good? Okay. And by the way, you can look this up online. This isn't an opinion of mine. I'm not making fun of the special Israeli-U.S. relationship. Go Google most vetoes at UN, and you will see a huge page of any resolution and all resolutions that have mentioned Israel that the United States vetoed. And the list is long. How about a resolution approving UN intervention? UN is going to send military forces to intervene in North Korea. China would veto that. China would always veto that. It's the reason North Korea, there's never been any action against North Korea. China will protect them. How about UN intervention into Syria? Russia has already promised to veto that and has been vetoing that. How about approving UN intervention into Canada? Someone say Italy? Wow. Really, don't pregame that much before class. All right, how about a resolution approving UN intervention into the Democratic Republic of Congo? Nobody is the answer. Nobody would veto that. Why? Who cares? It's in Africa. None of those African states have a strong ally that's going to protect them via veto. Feels like a test question. Where do you think most UN troops are right this second? Africa. Wow, you're getting smarter every second. All of the biggest UN intervention missions are in Africa. They have been, they are, and they will be, because no one will veto to stop that. How about maybe just one last one, or one last group? How about a UN resolution that recognizes, I've already answered this. I'm going to put forward a UN resolution that recognizes that the Senkaku Isles belong to Japan. Wow, yeah, that was weak. I was expecting some serious protest, all right? I didn't say China, all right? There, I said it that time. How about a resolution recognizing anyone's claim to the South China Sea? China's not going to allow that to happen either. How about a resolution that recognizes the independent sovereign state of Texas? The U.S. might. We might veto that. We might let it go, all right? And finally, because I want to be inclusive, I want to make sure that we get to all of the veto powers in the P5. Who would veto a resolution banning the act of surrendering? Of course they would. It's their national defense policy. They couldn't do without that. Does everybody in the room understand why all of those vetoes would happen by those specific powers? Yes? And you'll be able to answer those questions on a test and for the rest of your life? All right, sweet. Then you'll see them again on who would veto this. And quickly, we never got to this last definition of states versus nation states, so let's wrap this lecture up to get to our world leaders. We talked about states, we talked about nations. Nation state is just putting the two together. So we talked about nations as groups of people, emphasis on the people, groups of people who share a common culture, who perhaps want to have their own government and want to rule themselves, and they do so in a recognized area called a state. So a nation of people has their own geographic area that everybody else recognizes as state. Can you give me some examples of a nation state? Japan is a great example of a nation state. I heard France, okay? Germany? My German's in the hizzle, yes? Okay. Where else are nation states at? Okay, Korea's a great one. Iran, really actually should probably go back one. Germany, if you just went around all of Europe, they're pretty much all nation states. There's Lithuanians in Lithuania, there's Italians in Italy, there's Spanish people in Spain, there's Portuguese people in Portugal. Every single little European country is a very good example of a nation state. I wonder why that is. They're the ones that invented the crap, all right? They're the ones that invented the whole concept. So really anybody in Europe, but further afield, Iran is a great example. Distinctly Persian culture in this state we call Iran. And you got a couple of the other good ones too. The Japanese are almost 100% ethnically Japanese. And in Korea, 100% of people are ethnically Korean. That's as nation state as it gets. It's this group of people in a defined territory. Nation state. Now, can we have a nation without a state? Like the Hopi Nation for sure. Or other ones like the Basque. Has anybody heard of the Basque? Okay. The Basque are an ethnic group in northern Spain that have perhaps on again, off again been wanting to form their own state, pull away from Spain. They're like, we're not Spanish. Okay. We're Basque. We don't want to be part of this other state, your nation state. We're a nation of our own. Does anybody know any others? The Kurds. The Kurds. And Kurdistan, which is an imaginary place. Okay, there is no Kurdistan, but the Kurds would very much like to form a Kurdistan. They're a different ethnic group. They're not Turkish, they're not Arab, they're not Persian. They're Kurds. And they would like to have their own state, but they ain't got it. Okay, yes? Yes, you may live to see a Kurdistan because, see, this class is too smart. Now I'm going to have to give you another exam question. The northern part of Iraq is mostly Kurds. Now, here's why you might live to see a Kurdistan. Is Turkey going to give away part of its territory so that Kurds can form a new Kurdistan? Is Iran going to give away part of its territory to Kurds for a Kurdistan? Syria, well, that's a crapshoot altogether, okay? Let me say this now, and I'll repeat it if you need to have it repeated later, okay? Oh. Let me say this really quickly. Burn this into your brain and remember it always. Sovereign states never, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, never, ever, never, 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 ever, never, 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 ever, ever, ever give away territory. Ever! They don't give away territory. It doesn't happen. I.e., see the group of rocks called the Senkaku Islands. All right? Sovereign states never willingly give away territory. Not going to happen, yes. Let me finish. Oh, good call. She's saying South Sudan. Oh, good one. Because that was all peaceful, right? And Sudan just gave away part of their territory. They voted on it. Do you know Sudanese history? Why did they vote on it? After 40 years of civil war and 5 to 6 million deaths, they gave it away. Would you call that giving it away willingly? I wouldn't, and that's my point. States never give a scrap of land away without a fight. The Louisiana Purchase. Okay, they don't give it away without a scrap, without a fight, or a shit ton of money, all right? Yeah, we bought Alaska, too, from the Russians. Sorry, Russians, losers, all right? Here's what I want you to remember. This gets back to current events and stuff we're talking about. States have their territory, and even if it's a crappy-ass piece of land that appears to be worth nothing, states will not give it away. Again, Senkaku or Diaoyu Islands. Those are worth nothing. Why would these countries fight about it? Because countries never, ever, ever, ever give away territory. Not without getting something big in return or a big fight where it gets taken from them. Okay? You know, I'll pick on the Senkakus for a little bit longer, or even the Falklands, or really anything. Let's make up a fake island. Has anybody ever heard my legendary tale of Dog Shit Island? Have you not heard Legend of Dog Shit Island? Someone eventually put this in a book. I made it up years ago, and it seems to work. All right? Let's not pick on all the islands that already are out there. Let's make up a fake one. Let's make up a piece of territory that nobody could possibly want. Let's have a small island about as big as this room. Let's put it off the coast of Virginia Beach. 200 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach. There's a rock the size of this room. And it's not just a rock. Actually, all of the East Coast citizens here in the United States use that rock to dump all pet waste on. We have ships nonstop that go to this island and dump dog shit on it. And we've been using it for centuries. And so there's dog shit 5 miles high on Dog Shit Island. Nobody wants to go near it. It smells. It's worthless. It's terrible. It's an eyesore. What would happen if China invaded Dog Shit Island? War! War! We will defend Dog Shit Island to the death! Is that true? That is true! Why on earth would we get into a war over an island of dog shit? Because it's our territory. And because you never know. Because you never know. You don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what Dog Shit Island might be worth next year. What if somebody discovers a way to turn specifically dog shit into energy? An energy more powerful than a nuclear blast. What's Dog Shit Island worth now? It's a national treasure. Because you never know what's around the corner. Now, that's an extreme example, because dog shit probably will always be dog shit. But what else is vitally important about Dog Shit Island that the United States would definitely be willing to go to war over it for? Its location. Its location, its location. That thing is near us. And we may not want it, and we may not use it, we may not think about it, but we damn sure don't want some other country sitting on it with nuclear weapons. So there's always strategic value to pretty much all land everywhere all the time. Because you never know. Because you never know who you might be going to war with 10 years from now. And you never know what might be under that island or on it that might be valuable 10 years from now. States never give away territory without a fight or a shit ton of money. Just doesn't happen. This was supposed to be a quick game, all right? We're getting off track as usual. Let me get back to what I said was going to be a test question here, although I've given you 10 in the meantime. You might actually live to see a Kurdistan. Is Turkey going to give away part of its territory? Iran? Syria? No. We'll send them to protect Dog Shit Island, all right? Chuck Norris is the king of Dog Shit Island. What you might see, though, is that Iraq is a country that is borderline civil war. And Kurds do control the northern tier of it. And it could be soon, it could be next week, it could be 10 years from now, but it's entirely feasible that the Kurds in northern Iraq say, we never liked being part of Iraq anyway, we declare independence. And if Iraq is in a more turbulent situation than it is right now, and it looks like it's going to fall into full-on civil war, I can assure you the Kurds will declare an independent Kurdistan in northern Iraq. For sure. I'm a betting man, and I only bet when I know I can win, and I put money on that. So you might live to see that happen. Does that make sense? Okay? Anyway, we're talking about nations without states. Let's go for a few other ones. Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Who would veto it? You think everyone? I don't know. I don't know who would veto it. What country do you think would be most likely to veto it? Not even China or Russia. I think the United States would actually be the first to say, hey, we spent a lot of money and a lot of U.S. lives holding that country together. So that feels like a test question too. It's very likely the United States would be the one to say, no, come on, no. We're not recognizing any independent Kurdistan. You guys hold it together, hold it together. That don't mean it will, okay? But the United States would probably lead the charge on that. If Iraq continues to devolve into a civil war, though, and it's every group for themselves, it really won't matter who recognizes what at the P5, will it? Events on the ground are reality. If Kurds can control and defend their own territory, they're not going to give much of a flying crap who recognizes them or not. Okay? Sorry to get all heavy and serious all of a sudden. Here's a couple of areas that you should already know the answers to as well. These guys are the Abkhazians. And this group over here in the brown polygon are Ossetians. And they currently are located in the state of Georgia, that is mostly ethnically Georgian. These are the two areas that Russia invaded to help liberate. And so they have a very dicey status right now, too. They're nations of people, Ossetians, but they don't have a state. They're under this weird kind of Russian protection, not part of Georgia physically, but they still are politically. It's just kind of a mess. Okay? And actually staying in the neighborhood, you could go to the other side of the mountains here, and you would see inside of Russia, every single one of these lit up colored polygons is actually a different ethnic group. Politically, they're in Russia, but they're Dagestani people in their little province called Dagestan, and Chechen people, I know you've heard of them, in Chechnya. They're not Russian people. And a lot of them don't want to be part of Russia, but they're within sovereign state Russia. Okay? So they're nations of people without a state. And to kind of finish this up, understanding this concept of nations and nation states will help you understand a lot about modern history and actually future history of the world. If you start to pay attention to where nations of people are, you'll start to figure out where a lot of the future conflicts may be unfolding. Namely, this used to be Yugoslavia, a state. Was it a nation state? Question, was Yugoslavia ever a nation state? Hell no. It had a dozen different nations of people in it. There was Serbs and Croats and Slovenes and Montenegrins and Macedonians. They were never a nation state. They were a state, but not a nation state. And when times get tough, things get turbulent, that's when you have civil war and states busting apart to form more natural nation-state units. Got it? So if you understood this, it was inevitable that Yugoslavia was going to crash and burn. And you can go around other parts of the world and say, yeah, it's probably going to happen there eventually too. I.e., go back to my Iraq example. Okay? Now, can we have a state that's not a nation state? And I've already answered this. A state that's not a nation state, such as? Great Britain's a good one. Well, I just gave you the former Yugoslavia, not a very good example of a nation state. Bunch of nations packed into a state, but not a nation state. How about Great Britain, someone says? Great example. Is this a nation state? No, it's actually named the United Kingdom. Why? What nations of people are in the United Kingdom? Yeah. Irish, Welsh, the Scots, and the English. These are all nations of people with a very strong sense of self-identity of their nation. Period. Okay? They make fun of each other a lot too. And they are bound together into a political unit called the United Kingdom. But it's not a good example of a nation state. They're all British citizens, but I wouldn't call it a nation state. Any others? The United States is a tricky one, but how about India? India is an easier example. In India, you got, I don't even know, dozens of ethnic groups that speak dozens of languages, and 3 or 4 major world religions that have millions and millions of adherents. This one's another tough place to call a nation state. It's a state. It's a great state. And everybody from India is called Indians, right? So on their passport, they're from India. But I wouldn't call it a nation state. I'm sorry, I saw a hand back there. Yep. Belgium is another great example I don't have on the board here, but go ahead and write it down in your notes. Belgium is not a nation state. In fact, they are one of the few in Europe that's not an example of a nation state, because you may live to see Belgium rip apart into 2 different states. In fact, who are the groups in Belgium, since you know? The Wallonians and the Flemish. The Flemish and Wallonians. See, you guys just know Belgium, but if you're in Belgium, they would say, no, I'm this or that. Yeah. What about Nigeria? Yes, I would actually point to, and I should have put this on the slide, I'm a fool for forgetting it, but go ahead and jot this down in your brains. The whole continent of Africa, very problematic to call any of them nation states, with some exceptions. Okay? And here's why. If you want to jump ahead to the Sub-Saharan Africa chapter, you'll see this. Africa, before white dudes started going there and messing with it, they had hundreds and hundreds of nations, tribes of people. I think I talked about this last class. Hundreds and hundreds of ethnic divisions of tribes of people, self-identified nations. Maybe 300 or 400 across the whole continent. And then a bunch of whiteys from Europe dropped in and drew a bunch of damn lines and said, oh, by the way, now you're Angola. Welcome to Zimbabwe. We just created you. Oh, okay, you're Tanzania, Kenya. Oh, let me get my T-square out. Egypt. All right? Those are European imposed borders. So a lot of African states have worked very hard since independence, just in the last 50 or 60 years. And sorry, I'm talking really fast because you guys are asking really good questions to get me fired up. African governments have worked very hard in the last 50 or 60 years to try to convince people that they're Nigerian. You're Nigerian. You're Kenyan. You're Angolan. Because that is not, it's not natural, okay? Historically, it's not a, 100 years ago, there was no damn Zimbabwe. How can we be Zimbabweans now? We're actually from 5 different tribes. So that's something that African governments have had to work really hard at. Some are successful at it, some are less successful at it. Does that make sense? So Africa as a whole, hard to call really any of those countries nation states. With one exception, let's go ahead and throw it out there for an easy exam question. Does anybody know what African country is like, oh no, that's mostly this group and they've been that way for a while? Ethiopia, we pointed out. And even Ethiopia has a couple different major tribes, but there is a sense of identity of Ethiopian-ness that I don't know that you have a sense of Zimbabwe-ness. Yeah. South Africa is actually a very multicultural society as well. It does not, in fact, it's perhaps one of the worst examples of nation states in Africa, because then you have a bunch of other people from the world hanging out there too. Make sense? Sorry we've belabored this point too much, yeah? Egypt's a little bit better as a nation state. A little bit better, because they have, I don't know, like a 5,000-year history or some shit. Egyptian people have been around for a long time, so they do have a sense of Egyptianness. That's a pretty good one too. Yeah. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, why do I say the U.S.? Oh, the U.S. is tricky too. I got it up here. Are we a nation state? There you go. There's the answer. You guys don't even know. If you don't know, how am I supposed to know? Come on, say it loud and proud. Is the U.S. a nation state? America, all right? If we are a nation state, what is our common culture? Remember, a nation is a common group of people that share a common culture. Football, food, alcohol, war. Our hatred of France? No. No. Beer. 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 I know Germany invented beer. We're talking about our common culture. We perfected it. That's right. We have some angry Germans in the house now since I made that comment. Sorry. Was joking. Alcohol may be the best one I can think of. I mean, think about it. Now, dig this, okay? When we talk about cultures, right? We talk about, oh, the German culture, the Ethiopian culture, Indian culture, Chinese culture. That means something, right? What does it usually mean when you hear about culture? Like Russians, what's specific Russian culture? Yeah, vodka, things they drink. What's Chinese culture? Maybe the way people look, maybe their history. Oh, food. Isn't there something that's Chinese food? That's it. It's food. If you can name the food, isn't it a nation? Name all of the restaurants you've eaten at, the type of restaurants you've eaten at in the last week. Indian. That seems kind of like an Italian. Mexican. German. Greek. Japanese. If you can say, I went to a Greek restaurant and that's meaningful to people, it must be expressing something about their culture, right? Has anybody ever been to an American restaurant? What the hell does that mean? Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, all right. Okay, so we don't have a common food. We have a common history, but what other things do people in other ethnic groups have in common? Language, maybe a religion, maybe dances. Everybody has ethnic dances, right? Traditions, holidays, right? Does the U.S. have any of that specifically that's the U.S.'s? We kind of have everybody from everywhere, and we do everything. We take everybody. We recognize everybody's religion, everybody's language. Come on in. It's just a big-ass party. In fact, we don't even give a damn about if it's your holiday. We'll just take it and party here with it, too. How many people party for St. Patrick's Day? Are you Irish? No, you're not. No, you're not. We steal other people's holidays. So maybe alcohol is the one unifying thing of our culture, because we take everybody else's shit and we drink to it. Think about it. Think about it. New Year's Eve, it's the new year. We should drink. St. Patrick's Day, we should green beer. It's Easter. Let's hide some damn eggs and drink. 4th of July, drink and blow shit up. Thanksgiving, eat a shit ton of food and drink. That's the one thing we do. Now, I'm only being facetious here. Is the United States a nation state? Is there something that unifies and bonds us together as a group of people? There kind of is. We're really unique. And I'm not saying we're unique, we're so awesome. I'm saying the United States is kind of unique. We are not bound together by religion, language, dances, cuisines, holidays. None of that binds all of us together, but what does? National pride. Let's ignore national pride even. Freedom. That's a good place to start. What else does pretty much everyone who comes to these shores and hangs out here, they must believe in this. They want to join the American dream. The American dream, capitalism, free enterprise, the Constitution, human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that, freedom of everything. What American does not believe in any of that? Yeah, the ginormous number of communists that have infiltrated the country. We actually, I think maybe the United States is a nation state, but one of the few in the human experience that we are bound together by ideas, not by things. Does that make sense? And again, if you don't like freedom or capitalism or free enterprise, you don't come here, and no one does. The reason that people like to come here is because pretty much everybody believes that. Pretty much everyone in the world's like, what? I can do anything I want? That sounds cool. The harder I work, the more money I make? That sounds cool. I can make fun of the president and no one will shoot me? That sounds cool. I like that. America sounds good. That's what binds. If you want to say America's a nation state, then that's what it is. It's about ideas. Okay? Cool? Sorry, I know there's been lots of hands going up, and when I get into a rant and rage, I forget to. Is there any questions that people had that I didn't get to yet? Okay. Just shout it out because my vision's not so good anymore. And now we'll get back to our Sudan friend here, who said, wait a minute, we have all these new states that have cropped up. You said states never, ever, ever give away territory. Sudan just did, because South Sudan is the newest state on planet Earth. Feels like a test question. And so this whole southern tier of it here, they drew a line, they had a vote, and they said, you know what, let's just split into 2 states. Go for it. So peaceful, so awesome, you're right. They just gave it away, Boyer's full of shit. Except that this came at the tail end of a 40-year war to the tune of 5 to 6 million people dead. This place is soaked in blood of former generations. I wouldn't say they gave that away, not willingly and not easily. It truly got to the point that the Sudanese government said, we can continue to try to hold this together if we want to fight and die in perpetuity. Not worth it. Not worth it. Have a damn state, go for it. So many people died in this one. They earned it. And that's what you're going to see in the future is any future states, they're going to have to earn it. There's going to be bloodshed. There's not that many cases left on planet Earth where anybody's just going to say, oh, Kurdistan, you guys want to have a country? Oh, good for you. Let's get a map out. Let's get you some land. All right. Let's draw in some borders. You guys go for it. Good luck. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be people with their backs against the wall that are willing to die and fight to the death to grab a piece of their own land. What about Brazil? What did they give away?
Portugal gave away Brazil.
Okay, maybe. Or was it the case that Portugal couldn't really do anything about it? Whenever the Americas countries became independent, the United States, we fought for it, kicked the British out, sorry, Brits, fought for it, died for it, earned it, and there were many wars of independence in South America too. We just don't know about a lot of them because we don't teach that stuff in America or in American history. But yeah, people earned it down in South America too, and it was the case that Portugal had a huge empire and it was on the down low. It was on the slide. I would not say they willingly gave it away. There wasn't much they could do about it. Okay? Good. Okay. All right. Okay, now we'll play a quick round of state or not a state. We've talked about these ad nauseum now, so these will go really quickly. You ready to play? Quick. Yeah. Ready? All possible exam questions, most of which we've already covered. South Africa, state or not a state? State. That's a state, of course it is. Don't make the mistake that former President Bush did where he called all of Africa a state. And we're like, no, that's a continent. South Africa's the state. Africa's a continent. He finally got it right. Let's go to Tibet, state or not a state? Not a state. Part of? Absolutely. Tajikistan. That's a state. Now people are shaking their head. Just because you can't pronounce it, never heard of it, don't mean it's not a state, all right? Learn your world states. Tajikistan is a state just north of Afghanistan, you see there. How about Greenland? Not a state. What's Greenland? It's a colony of Denmark. It's still a Danish colony. Let me go ahead and plant the seed for this for a possible exam question too. You may see an independent sovereign Greenland in your lifetime as well. And that one actually may go against the Boyer rule here. They are actually peacefully negotiating a sovereign state away from the Danish, and the Danish are actually amenable to it. They're like, yeah, I guess it's a rock covered with ice, whatever, right? So you might live to see that it is being talked about right now. Greenland may become a sovereign state, but not yet. How about Somalia? Really? It's a state? Remember when I asked you all the stuff that most states have, and you said money and government and constitution and army? Somalia hadn't had any of that shit for 30 years. How are they a state? They got pirates. Now, I don't know that makes you a state, all right? They can kill their own people. Lots of people died there. What else? Nobody would intervene. Everybody recognized them. And that gets down to boiling it all down. What you need to have a state is that recognition. Everybody had already recognized Somalia. It's actually kind of hard to unbecome a state. So once you already are one, everybody's like, no, we recognize your border, Somalia. We don't give a shit if you're collapsing. You're a state. You stay over there. No, you're good. If anybody can live to get to the UN, you can have a seat. But otherwise, we don't give a shit, all right? You're a state. Why? Because we all recognize you are, even if you can't hold it together. So they are a state who's actually just getting a new government this semester for the first time in 30 years. How about Palau? Palau is that group of islands up there. State or not a state? State. Absolutely. It's a small group of islands. It's a state. Again, could that have happened 100 years ago? Doubtful. Not unless China was like big brother to them or something. But today's the modern world. If you get your stuff together and put your application into the UN, you too can become a state, as long as everybody recognizes you. That's all you need. How about Kosovo? Not a state. Serbia? State. Bosnia? State. We missing any here? Montenegro? State. Actually, that became one of the newest states in the last 5 years as well. Okay? So the one in question here that's not a state yet, I want you to know, Kosovo, not yet a state. Puerto Rico. I don't know what the hell Puerto Rico is. Does anybody know what Puerto Rico is? Territory, like Guam. So it belongs to who? How many people from Puerto Rico think your country belongs to the United States? No Puerto Ricans here, all right? Where's Gloria Estefan when you need her, all right? Is she from Puerto Rico? Is Ricky Martin from Puerto Rico? There you go. Puerto Rico is not a state, but it's not a possession of the United States either. It's just kind of there. It's just there. And Puerto Rico regularly goes to the polls and votes, should we join the United States? And people say no. Why do it? So they've never asked to be an independent sovereign state at the UN. They've never actually formally asked to become a part of the United States. They just hang out. Yay, we're Puerto Rico. We make good rum. All right. How about this area called Lesotho? State. Yep, it's a state, even though it's just a little donut hole right inside of South Africa. Recognized sovereign state. South Sudan. Yep, that's official now. It's a state. How about Vatican City? Here's a zoom in of the entire country. Sovereign state, about as big as the drill field. All of us together as a united front could take over the Vatican City, but it's a state because they're recognized. And if we, as a united front, invaded Vatican City, somebody would probably try to stop us. Maybe Italy. We might be able to take the Italian army too, though. So it's going to have to be somebody else. And finally, Scotland. Not a state. What's Scotland? Scotland is a part of the United Kingdom, as we've now already pointed out. Okay, let's get down to some heads of state stuff, though. Okay? How much time we got? Somebody give me a time count. 8:46? 26. Oh, we can do 3 lectures in 40 minutes. Not a problem. Not a problem. At my pace? Are you kidding me? Let's know some heads of state. By round of applause, how many people already watched the videos on the left versus right and types of government? And you aced the flash quiz? Yeah! 20 points in the pocket. How does that feel? Yeah? What if I just gave you like 20 more of those things? Dude, that'd be like 400 points. Fire it down. Look at these people clapping because they want tests. Do you realize you're clapping because you want to be tested on stuff? I love you. That's my international sign language. I love you. Extra credit? I'll take all I can get. All right? Now let's see how many world leaders we can get through in the next 40 minutes. And these are people you will see on the World Leaders exam next week. We're doing that after class next week, right? At 9 o'clock? Okay. Let's hustle and go through them as quickly as possible. And I can tell you what's important about them. Who is this dude? And he is the Prime Minister of Great Britain. Here's what else I want you to know about David Cameron. If he was running for office in the United States, if he was running in the presidential election, who would he be running as a Democrat or Republican? Let me ask again. David Cameron, if he was an American, Democrat or Republican? Nobody knows. Answer is Republican. He is conservative, just center-right. So you know the difference between left and right with politics and politicians, right? Okay? His party would be the equivalent of Republicans in the United States, so it's on the conservative side. Okay? Got it? He just took over after like 2 decades of liberal rule of Great Britain. Right? So I want you to know that. We'll talk more about it as the semester progresses. But he is part of a growing trend in Europe that you should jot down now. He is part of the trend of Europe going more center-right. Europe as a whole, almost all countries are moving towards the conservative right, politically and socially, with the exception of France. Okay, but we'll talk more about that. Let's get to France, though. Who is this dude, and what's his former occupation? Murderer, someone says, all right? We need to know all of his former occupations. First off, his name, he is the ever-awesome Vladimir Putin. Putin, the all-powerful of Russia. Now, what was his former occupation? Okay, he is currently the president of Russia. His last job was prime minister of Russia. The job he had before that was president of Russia. And his job before that was ex-KGB. Everybody heard of the KGB? Secret police, Soviet Union. He is, with no reservation I say, the only world leader that has likely strangled someone to death with his bare hands. Can't be proven, but exceptionally likely. He's the one I've been bragging about all semester. He is a living legend. You can write that down. It's just not me being goofy. He's a living legend. What I mean by that is 100 years from now, people will be writing shit in history books about, holy crap, this guy was a pivotal figure in Russian history. Pivotal figure of the 21st century. Vladimir Putin will be one of the first on that list. He's that important. He's that big a deal, and he is that much of a living legend. Why is he such a legend? When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, this huge country, former superpower, was down and out. They were broke, their economy sucked, their military was sucking worse. Okay? They went through a full decade of pain and suffering. All of the 90s, Russia sucked. Bad. And people were depressed more than usual. Okay? They live in Russia, so most people are depressed anyway. More than usual depressed. More than usual down and out, and their economy sucked worse than ever before. When he came into office in the year 2000 is when Russia started to improve, started to get their mojo back for lots of different reasons you'll read about in the textbook, but he was the guy in charge when Russia got its mojo back, got its pride back, started making shit tons of money, mostly off the sale of oil and natural gas, and he kind of cleaned up the streets, some, but not all, and made Russians proud of Russia again. When his first 2 terms in office, at any given time, he would have an approval rating of his own people in the 80 to 90 percentiles. They would go poll Russians and say, do you think Putin's doing a good job? 85% of the country would say, he's the greatest! We love him! Do you know what a U.S. politician would give to have an 80% approval rating? A testicle or both, all right? For an 80%, they'd give a testicle for 60% approval. They'd give it for 50% approval rating. This man is a legend. Yes? Bill Clinton's highest approval rating might have been high 50s. Maybe 60 at the height of Bill Clinton-ness before he started smoking cigars, all right? Okay? So this was a man who is seen as a national icon that got Russia's mojo back. Russia was getting picked on internationally, getting cast aside and stomped on, and he comes back as a strong, burly, manly man figure who stood up to the world, stood up to U.S. policy, for better or worse for us, and is seen as a very exceptionally strong leader who got their mojo back. But on top of that, he also was a badass. He's a total badass. Go Google topless Putin pics. You will find hundreds of pictures of him out in the woods hunting, chopping down trees, shirtless, fishing. He scuba dived to the deepest lake in the world, Lake Baikal in Russia. He knows how to fly and maneuver and pilot every single type of vehicle ever known to mankind. He's been in fighter jets and submarines and battleships. He knows how to fire every single weapon, including crossbows. Oh, he's a judo black belt as well. And this is the kind of shit you can't make up. One time, he was having a documentary made about him out in the woods hunting, and a Siberian tiger charged the camera crew. A Siberian tiger charged the camera crew, and Vladimir Putin's like, I got this. Pop! And dropped the tiger right as it got to the crew. And everybody's like, holy shit! Did that just happen? Of course it did. I'm Vladimir Putin, all right? Yeah. He was so popular, Russia's system was much like the United States. You could run for president twice. He won the first time. He was handpicked to win the first time. He won the second time, so he served from 2000 to 2008. But in their constitution, they said that's as much as you can run. 2 terms. So he immediately stepped down into the prime minister position, and he's been there for 4 years. And then they changed the constitution. A little bit, just a little bit, so that now Russia doesn't have 4-year presidential terms, they have 6-year presidential terms. And because they changed the rules, the Russian Supreme Court ruled that he could actually run again for 2 more terms. And he did, and now he's president again. By the way, he's actually getting protest, and people are starting not to like him so much in Russia, but I'll save that story for another time, okay? Just know Vladimir Putin, international badass. And it might possibly be an exam question, but if we put all of the world leaders into one room at one time and had a battle royale, all current world leaders had to get in a room and fight to the death. Who would win? And it will be an exam question. Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin. Who's your pick? Anybody else could give Putin a shot for his... Well, maybe we threw Chuck Norris in, but he's not a... Did someone say Oprah? That's just not right, all right? He is kind of like the George Washington figure of Russia in the modern era. Teddy Roosevelt. Had to be live presidents, not dead ones. Okay? Even Teddy Roosevelt wasn't a black belt in judo, though. You can find 3 trillion million pictures of this guy because he's a PR whore, quite frankly. So every time he's on a battleship or shooting polar bears or scuba diving or hunting elk with a knife, all right, there'll be pictures of him doing it. He's driven Formula One race cars and fighter jets and everything else, like I said. He's hilarious. He is, what's the commercial with the most interesting man in the world? Dos Equis. They modeled that after him, for sure. But I've belabored the Putin legend long enough. Let's get to some other people out on planet Earth. Does anybody know who these 2 guys are? Which one controls or governs more people? In other words, which leader leads a country that has the biggest population? Does anybody know either one of them? Guy from left is Indonesia. That's right. Bam Bam. Do know Indonesian president Bam Bam. I don't even care if you know Susilo. Bam Bam is the easier one to remember. So do you know Bam Bam, president of Indonesia? And you also should probably know President Asif Zardari, president of Pakistan. President of Pakistan. Both of these leaders are U.S. allies, friends of the United States. And they also happen to lead a couple of the most populous countries on planet Earth, 210 million Indonesians. A gigantic country and a gigantic power in its own right. Pakistan, 150 million citizens. Okay? So these are important leaders that control these huge populations. And they also happen to be U.S. allies. Zardari's a little bit dicier. He could get thrown out of office at any second. But Bam Bam is a pretty damn popular Indonesian president. He's in his second or third term. He's been around for a while. The U.S. loves this guy. Zardari we don't like so much. What's that? Bam Bam's the president, yeah. Yep, Indonesia is a well-established democracy. Democracy, love it. All right, let's get on to bonus round here. Now that you know your government types, these ought to be awfully challenging. I know these are going to be really tough. Work together if you have to. Match the government leader to the type of government. I know. It's going to be almost impossible for you to get this on a test. So, military dictatorship, theocracy, or monarchy. Let's start at the top. Who is that guy? That is King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. What type of government does he lead? He's a king, therefore it's a monarchy. Yes? Sure they do. So someone's asking a very good question. I do want you to know this for the test, just for your brain. I say test question all the time because that's what people hear, and it makes you perk up. I could give a crap's less about test. I want you to be smart. So the question was, wait a minute, King Abdullah, isn't he really religious? And isn't Saudi Arabia a really religious state? And don't they have religious law? So isn't that a theocracy? Is Saudi Arabia a theocracy or a monarchy? It's a monarchy. Why? Because when King Abdullah dies, who takes over? Someone from his family. Who has the ultimate say about what goes on in Saudi Arabia? The king and his family do. Now, they are very religious people. And yes, Saudi Arabian law is Islamic law. But the top tier of power is led by a family. That makes sense? Okay? Religious groups can influence him heavily and say what they want to have happen, but he has the ultimate say. It's the reverse in Iran, obviously. Okay? There's president, but there's a religious group on top of that that says, nope, we actually have the real power here. Okay? How about this one? Another tricky one. Who's that guy? That's the Pope. And what type of government does the Pope lead? That's a theocracy because he is a religious figure in charge of Vatican City. And finally, I know a really tough one. Anytime you see people in a military uniform, it's probably a military dictatorship, and that is Raul Castro, dictator / leader of Cuba. Cuba would not call itself a dictatorship, but both Fidel and his brother Raul were military people, and that's how they got into power, via military. So you can wear a business suit and a suit and tie all you want, but if you got into power via the military, then you are a military ruler / a dictator. It's the way it works. Okay? Let me point out one other one, since we already talked about Sudan like 5 times tonight. If you see the president of Sudan, does anybody know his name? Bashir, okay? If you see him, he's wearing a suit and tie. He got into power 30 years ago via a military coup because he was the leader of the military. Sometimes he'll wear his military uniform, but when he's trying to act all presidential, he puts on a suit. That does not change the fact that he's a military dictator. If you seized power via military means, then you're a military dictator, even if you look all pretty later. Right? It's all about who has the power and how they got it. Now let's go to super fast round of name these people. Here's 1. Here's 2. Damn, they kind of look alike. They're white guys wearing glasses. And 3. The question now is, which of these gentlemen is most likely to surrender? Everybody's going immediately to the left. Who is this man all the way on the left? This is a Francois Hollande. The H is silent. Hollande. And he is president of France. So no French President Hollande. And now I do want to get back to politics for a second. If he was running for president in the United States, what political party would he be in? He's Democrat. He's liberal, center-left for sure. Okay. In fact, when you're center-left in France, you're a little bit even further left than Democrats in the United States. You're pretty liberal. Okay. So he's part of the liberal left for sure of France. Who are these other guys then? All right, we got Stephen Harper in the middle. He is the Prime Minister of Canada. And finally, Oh, you don't know the other guy. There you go, Felipe Calderon, President of Mexico. You should always and forever, for the rest of your life, be smart enough to know the leaders of the countries that border you and that are your biggest trading partners. It just makes you damn smarter. Period. How much time we got left in this class? 15 minutes. We can get through 75 slides, not a problem. All right? I do want you to know this as well. Felipe Calderon, jot this down in your notes, a.k.a. Cartel Crushing Calderon. He has been the president of Mexico for the last 6 years. Mexico has a one-term presidency, so he can't run for office again. And they already held an election, and his party lost. So he is leaving office at the end of this semester. I call him Cartel Crushing Calderon because he is the president who started the war on the drug cartels of Mexico. It's been exactly 6 years. When he got into office, war on the drug cartels, and that's one of the reasons why there's been a bloodfest in Mexico for the last 6 years. The death toll in Mexico since this man took office has now exceeded 56,000 dead. In Mexico, your neighbor to the south. In 6 years, 56,000 people have died in drug-related violence, including civilians. Okay? So, by the way, I like this guy. I'm not saying he's evil and bad. I'm saying this is a product of his administration, the war on cartels. But he's getting ready to leave office, and I do want you to be smart enough to know the next guy. Yes, you have a question? How good is out-of-term presidential security for Felipe? I hope it's really good. In fact, I hope he moves to Canada. But even MS-13 might find him there. So yeah, he's going to be a well-guarded human to the end of his days. He was on the death chart before. I'm not sure if he still is on it right now. But yes, there are regular attempts on his life for sure. Do go ahead and know this guy. And I always try to come up with catchy names so you remember him. I call him Pretty Boy Peña, all right? Pretty Boy Enrique Peña. He's the best-looking Mexican president they've ever had, all right? He's married to the greatest soap opera star of Mexico. I'm not making this shit up, all right? I can't make these things. Could I make up that Putin is a black belt and shot a tiger? No, and I can't make up that this guy's, they call him like the JFK of Mexico. He's lived a special, preordained life, lifestyles of the rich and famous, married to Mexico's most famous soap opera star, and he will be taking office right when our semester ends, and so he is a devastatingly handsome man, but not to be confused with Ricky Martin, all right? So Enrique Peña will take over, and you know what? Let's give you another couple test questions too. Felipe Calderon, I've now told you, law and order guy, came into office, declared war on the drug cartels. What do you think his political affiliation is? Center-left or center-right? Liberal or conservative? Conservative. How about Peña? He's center-left. Okay, so I know I'm giving you a lot of info, but jot it down. Calderon, conservative. See, it even rhymes. CC, Calderon, conservative, law and order guy, war on cartels. Enrique Peña, more liberal. No one knows how the administration is going to change its tactics fighting the drug cartel war because it's a difference of opinion on how to run countries. Does everybody see why I think this stuff's important for you to know? Come December, Mexico will likely change their policy on the war on drugs. We don't know how they're going to change it. We don't know what the effects will be. But it's likely to change, which is why it's so damn important to know who's in charge of the planet. So you're smarter about what's coming. So we'll watch Enrique Peña, not Ricky Martin, to see what they do down south of our border. Now, which one of these guys do you think is not Islamic? Look at these faces. Which one of these is not an Islamic person? Not a follower of Islam. Okay, let's start at the top left. Does anybody know who that guy is? That is Recep Erdogan of Turkey. We now already picked out King Abdullah of? Oh, no, we've already picked out Bam Bam of? We've already picked out Zardari of Pakistan. Oh, this one's new. That's Prime Minister Singh of India. And finally, does everybody know this cat? He's got the cool clothes on. Hamid Karzai of Afghanistan. Which one is not Islamic? Singh. What religion do you think he is? Sikh. Look at the turban. I actually intentionally chose this because of the attack on Sikhs in the United States here just less than a month ago, where people are like, I hate Islam, I'll kill Islamic extremists, except they're not Islamic or extremist. Fail for you crazy suicidal extremist, all right? So Sikhs are the guys that wear turbans, and it's not Islam, all right? Now, having said that, oh, by the way, all the rest of them are. Okay, Islam is a religion followed by 1.5 billion people from Morocco all the way to Indonesia, and really worldwide, but that's where the concentration is, right? And I did want to pick out this one guy, because we'll talk about him a lot this semester, Recep Erdogan. Erdogan, I've also heard it pronounced. Erdogan is very much like Vladimir Putin, minus the topless shots and the judo. He is a pretty popular leader of Turkey. He's a prime minister. Prime minister. He's been in office for, I think, a decade. And it's likely he'll be in office for another decade. It's good to know Erdogan. Is he a friend or foe of the United States? Turkey is a huge ally of the United States. We work with Turkey for virtually all foreign policy in the Middle East and Asia. They are a huge U.S. friend. Erdogan is one of our main allies, period. So know this guy. He also happens to lead Turkey during a time of it becoming economically richer and doing a lot better and a lot of things going on and it becoming really cool, okay? So pretty popular leader, not as popular as Putin, but pretty popular leader, been in power a while, gonna be in power for a while longer. Know your Recep Erdogan. And I could talk about 10 other things that are important about him, but I'll take them as the semester progresses. Okay? Now let's go to, who are these guys and what do they have in common? The Dalai Lama. Everybody remember or knows the smiling face of the Lama. And who's the other guy? Well, I'm giving you the name. Mahmoud Abbas. Okay? So that guy's the Dalai Lama, Tibetan spiritual leader. Who's he? Kind of the president of Palestine. Therefore, what do they have in common? They're leaders of nations without states. Will be a test question for sure. I always tell people it's going to be a test question, they get it wrong anyway. So maybe I'll put like a handful of leaders up there and I'll say, hey, which ones of these are leaders of nations without states? Bammo! At least know these two guys. Okay? Who is the real leader of China? All right, I'm going to say China a bunch of times, so we'll retire the rich chant for just a second. Which one of these dudes is the real leader of China? Left or right? Left or right? Right, you like this guy? Leader of China? He's even got a U.S. flag behind him, though. I'm confused. Both of them kind of look Chinesey. So who are they? The guy on the left is Ma Ying-yao. Ma Ying-yao, 12th term president of the Republic of China. But we call the Republic of China Taiwan. So Ma is the president of Taiwan. Ma, president of Taiwan. We don't really consider that China, though. Some people in Taiwan do, but the rest of us don't, okay? So the real ruler of China is who? The real leader of China is who? I'm actually not asking you a question. The real leader of China is who? Hu Jintao. Who's his name? So whenever I say, who is the leader of China, you should say, yes. No. Who is the leader of China? Yes. I think half of you are still saying yes and rich, all right? Work it out. Work as a team, all right? Who is the leader of the People's Republic of China? That's big China, China rich, the China we know, all right? China, China. And if you don't recognize him in this outfit, because he looks awful capitalist, maybe this would better fit. Oh, communist China. This feels like a test question too. Is China communist? Do they have a communist party? Sure. And they party all the time. But China ain't communist, all right? They're a full-on capitalist society now. And if you don't know what that stuff means yet, hold on. You will by the end of the semester. And I also did want to introduce the next ruler of China, Xi, all right? Next President Xi, because they don't hold elections in China. They already know who's going to win. They've already chosen him. The Communist Party got together and partied and said, here's the guy who's going to replace who? His name is Xi, all right? Xi. The shift is imminent. Xi Jinping. He is currently the vice president of the People's Republic of China, and I think about a little less than a year from now, the switchover is going to occur, and he will be ruling China for the next decade. Okay? So know your Xi. You're going to be so damn smart, you know the next damn ruler of China. Isn't that awesome? Knowledge is power, right? But I know it's hard to tell Chinese people apart, all right? So I got some for non-Asian people. Let me put that disclaimer in, because Asian people can't tell you whiteys apart, all right? So all's fair in love and war. But I have some devices to help you identify folks, okay? First off, you should know that Xi is already kind of starting to make the rounds globally, meeting world leaders everywhere, because everybody knows he's taken over. So he has met already with the leaders of the United States. He's been to the United States twice. He's already done a European tour. He actually has come out very strongly on the Senkaku issue that we talked about at the beginning of class and stated basically, you better back the hell up, Japan. And he's not even the ruler yet. So again, it's important to know your rulers. We already know his opinion of the possible conflict with Japan over the Senkaku, right? So he's come out with a stern warning to Japan, even though he's not president yet. He's actually getting ready to attend an ASEAN summit. And does anybody know who this guy is here? There you go. We already talked about him. That is U.S. Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta, who's in China today. This picture was taken earlier this morning. Trying to build military ties with the next leader of China, Xi. All right? Now, again, I know it's difficult, okay, for people not from Asia or China to tell people apart. So I come up with mnemonic devices for you to try to figure this out. Let's say this all together, one at a time, each one of these leaders. And some of you are now starting to get the joke already. Okay? Who's the first guy? Yes, who? Who is the second guy? Xi. And the third guy? Ma and his ma. Say it quickly. Who, Chi, ma, ma. Who, Chi, mama. Who, Chi, mama. Yeah. You will now remember the leaders of China and Taiwan. Some of you are offended, but you will always have it seared into your brain from now on. And that's how I roll, all right? You now can't forget it. And that's what we're shooting for here. Please feel free to pick up a form to file a sexual harassment charge against me on your way out. How much time we got, by the way? 4 minutes, okay. Who is really in charge and of what country? Very quickly, very quickly. Okay. Who is this other guy? Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is the president of Iran, elected president of Iran. However, the other guy is a bit more important, I think, in the long term, and that is Ayatollah Khamenei. Ayatollah Khamenei. Which one has the real power in Iran? The Ayatollah, the religious figure, because this is a theocracy. If you needed any proof, there is the president kissing the hand of the Ayatollah. Now, maybe I've already pointed this out, but just very quickly, Ayatollah it's not a political title. He is the ultimate power in Iran. Ultimate. He can strike down any law. He can enforce any code. He's the one who declares war on another country. Not the president. This guy does. Okay? And he's unelected. Right? But Ayatollah is not like saying king. Ayatollah means, rough translation, it's like holy cleric or priest. There are many Ayatollahs. Okay? It's actually kind of just for the Shia branch of Islam, but there are many ayatollahs, kind of like a holy man, priest, cleric. When we refer to the Ayatollah of Iran, we're speaking specifically of this guy. He's the political leader as well. The kind of grand poobah, the highest of high Ayatollahs in Iran, who also happens to be the leader of the country. Does that make sense? So there are other Ayatollahs. This is the Ayatollah of Iran right now. Now, if you know any Iranian history, they've actually only had 2 Ayatollahs in charge since they had their Islamic Revolution back in 1979. He's the current Ayatollah, the Ayatollah. They may know the guy who went before him, who actually oversaw the Islamic Revolution, the Ayatollah Khomeini. Khomeini. And look, the spellings are identical except for the O and the A replacement. And Khomeini is one scary individual, all right? Well, he was. He's dead now, okay? So there's only been 2 leaders of Iran in their modern history. He was the first, and he took over when Khomeini died. If you can't remember your Ayatollahs, maybe this little device will help. The Ayatollah Khomeini kind of looks a scary version of Sean Connery, all right? So maybe that'll, I don't know, maybe that'll help, okay? Let's go very quickly on round of which one of these guys would not be in the Arab League, or we'll pick them out one at a time first. Most of them are dead now. Who's this guy up here? Gaddafi. And next to him is, back to King Abdullah, and next to him is former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. Hey, and we're back to smiling face Ahmadinejad to, oh, be sure you know this guy. That's al-Assad, the leader of Syria. And finally to, oh, geez, Mahmoud Abbas. Mahmoud Abbas. Which one of these folks would not be in the Arab League? In other words, Arab League is for states that are predominantly Arab and of Arab descent. Which one of these folks is not Arab? Ah, you pointed out, everybody get it? He's not Arab, he's Persian from Iran. So all the rest of them would be in the Arab League, and a lot of other folks you would know too. Of course, Gaddafi's now dead. Hosni Mubarak will soon to be dead, and who knows about Assad, okay? If you've never heard of the Arab League, it's the one lit up in the kind of lighter green here. Arab is an ethnicity, almost like a nation, okay? And it spans across many, many countries in the Middle East. Arabs are from the Arabian Peninsula, so pretty much everyone on the Arabian Peninsula, all those countries are Arab-dominated, as are most of the ones in North Africa. Folks like the Saddam Hussein of Iraq, he was Arab. Osama bin Laden, he was from Saudi Arabia, he was Arab. All of the leaders we've referenced, including the leader of Sudan, they're Arab, okay? Arab ethnicity in this Arab League, this grouping of Arab countries. It seems like we're out of time. Here's some Arab Spring rejects. All these are folks. This picture was taken at a meeting of the Arab League 2 years ago. All of these guys have since been kicked out of office or killed. And maybe this Arab guy is going to be the next one on the list. And I guess we'll leave it at that. We'll pick up the last handful of world leaders next class. Would you guys like me to do a video of all the world leaders? And send it to you? Yes? Yeah? Round of applause. You want a video of all the world leaders? Yeah. I'll make a whole video introducing all these folks you need to know and then point you to the quiz, getting ready for next week's exam. Is that cool? All right, everybody have a great night, and we'll see you online or next Wednesday.